Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the Intern's Oddities from around the world. Today, we will be discussing Sun Wukong and the journey to the west. Sun Wukong is known as the Monkey King. So, a long time ago, there was this place called the Mountain of Flowers and Fruit. And on this mountain, there was a rock. Okay? Now, on this rock, there happened to be something strange inside the rock, and one day a pebble fell from this immortal stone, and this little bitty pebble turned out to be an egg of some sort, and thus was born the Monkey King. Now, the reason they call him the Monkey King is obviously he became the king of the monkeys, but you may be wondering, how did he become the king of the monkeys? Well, for the first thing he did was he was smarter than, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm going to have to leave a lot of stuff out just for time's sake, but I don't want to leave too much out. So let's back up a little bit. When he was first born from the rock, he actually opened his eyes for the first time, and lights, like laser beams, basically, lights, really bright lights, shot from his eyes. Okay? And he was like looking around everywhere. And when the light shot from his eyes and he looked up towards the heavens, he actually annoyed the Jade Emperor. Now, I got some pictures of the Jade Emperor, so let me get to one of those real quick so I can show you. So he annoyed the Jade Emperor right here, this dude. Now, the Jade Emperor was not very happy with being annoyed with these bright lights, so he sent one of his emissaries down to investigate, like, hey, dude, go find out what that light was. So one of his people went down to investigate, and they found the monkey in the mountain of fruit and flowers. And so when they found the monkey, they were like, "Hey, monkey, what are you doing? Why are you spitting these lights out? What's going on?" But they didn't really see him as an immediate threat, so they let him be for now. But they kept a watchful eye on him. Now, this monkey could talk. He could speak like our language, like you and me. And so this monkey, over time, he was the smartest of the monkeys, and he taught the other monkeys to speak as well. And so over time, as he got older, the monkeys were happy and they were having their peaceful lives and they were all happy. But Sun Wukong, he didn't have this name yet. Keep that in mind. I'm just using that as a reference. So the Monkey King has he was concerned. He's like, we're not always going to be here. We're not immortal eventually, and we're not even all that strong. Like, we're not the strongest people either. So what are we going to do if someone invades and we don't have the strength to fight them off when we get old? Because like we might be young and right and virile right now. We might be able to fight them off right now, but what happens when we get a little bit older and we don't have the energy to fight so well anymore? We're going to get old. We're not going to be as strong. And eventually someone is going to see us getting old and they're going to take that as an advantage of our weakness. So he grew concerned and he wanted to learn about immortality. And so as he went around his journey on a quest for immortality, he eventually ran across a monk. Now, I got some images of some monks too, so let's go to one of those. I like this one. It's like the emoji style monk. So when he ran across this monk, a woodcutter at the time, he later came out to find out that he was a monk, but he was like a woodcutter monk, okay? So he ran across this woodcutter out in the forest, right? And I left some stuff out just so you're aware. I skipped over a few things. Just wanted to make that clear. So eventually, some other stuff happened, but eventually he came across this woodcutter and he was like, and he heard this woodcutter singing a song about the immortals and the gods. So he got excited. So he went to question this woodcutter, and he was like, "What do you know about being immortal and being meeting gods and all that? What are you talking about?" And the woodcutter admitted that he himself did not know how to become immortal, but he did know how to guide him on the correct path towards immortality. There were many different ways you could be immortal, but he himself was not immortal. But he could help guide him towards immortality. So, long story short, he eventually learned what is known as the 72 earthly transformations. And through the use of these 72 earthly transformations, now this is where I personally differ from the average opinion. Many people will say that the 72 earthly transformations, is Sun Wukong's first layer of immortality. And this woodcutter is the one who gave Sun Wukong his name, by the way. I just had to kind of glaze over that because there's a lot to get through. But anyways, so Sun Wukong, when he learned these 72 earthly transformations, it was meant to help him survive the 3 apocalypses that the gods would be sending after Sun Wukong because they didn't want to deal with him anymore. They were getting upset with him. So they were getting concerned with his growing power. Why is Sun Wukong on a journey to seek immortality? What's he up to? The gods didn't like that. The gods didn't want anyone mortal to be gaining immortality. So they were against that. So they were trying to stop him with basically like 3 apocalypses every 10 years or whatever. So anyways, he was supposed to learn the 72 earthly transformations in order to help him negate or survive these apocalypses. So what some people say, that is his first layer of immortality. And while I will agree that it does help him survive, because it basically gives him 72 lives in addition to his own life, it's not that simple, because it does give him an extra 72 lives, but after those 72 lives, he could still technically, die. So that was something that concerned me about them calling that one of his layers of immortality. But anyways, that's just my personal opinion. Most people would consider that to be his first layer of immortality. He's got like 6 or 7 layers. But anyways, so after that, he learned the 72 earthly transformations, and then he went back and he was bragging about it. And if you know anything about monks, you're really not supposed to be bragging. You're supposed to just keep your stuff to yourself and live your own peaceful, quiet life. But not to mention the woodcutter monk had already told him, "Hey, don't tell people about what I've told you." And from here on out, I will refer to the woodcutter monk as Bodhisattva. That is the name. But anyways, so from there, he told him not to tell anyone and to keep it a secret. But Sun Wukong was prideful, and he was proud of himself because he worked for 7 years on this. Like, he worked really hard to get here and learn all this stuff. So he was proud of himself. So he started showing off. Now I got a really nice looking picture of Sun Wukong right here. So we'll switch to this one for a minute. So, he was over there showing off his 72 earthly transformations. Bodhisattva caught him, and he was not happy. So he basically kicked him out, and he's like, "Hey, I cannot take you as a student anymore. I refuse." And another thing that I glazed over a moment ago, and trying to keep everything short, that feels like it's important to mention now, is Bodhisattva, this woodcutter monk, had also taught Sun Wukong what is known a skill which is known as the somersault cloud, which will allow Sun Wukong to do a somersault and ride a cloud wherever he wants to go. And he can ride this cloud so fast that he can travel pretty much anywhere on the entire planet within 2 hours. It's super fast. And Sun Wukong can also jump incredibly high. He can jump so high that he can literally jump into outer space. It's insane. So, anyways, that I felt that was important to mention for the continuation of the story. So, after Bodhisattva kicked Sun Wukong out of his, camp or whatever, and he's like, I'm not going to be your teacher anymore. Sun Wukong jumped up on a somersault cloud, and he decided to go back home to his monkey people. And another thing that I had left out earlier about him with his monkeys and all his friends and everything is they had found an entire kingdom in a cave behind a waterfall, and that was the Curtain Vale Kingdom, I believe they called it. And that was like their home. They had made that their home. So, anyways, when Sun Wukong gets back there after all this time, that was how he gained the title of the Monkey King. So when he gets back there after all this time away, he finds out that a bull demon king is now taken over his spot and usurped his throne. So he goes in and, he helps the monkeys and he helps fight them. And he gets rid of the bull demon king with his kung fu that he learned from Bodhisattva. But he's unsatisfied. He realizes that he's not going to be able to rely on his arms and legs. He's not going to be able to rely on his fists alone for all the future battles. And the human swords are weak and frail. He doesn't really appreciate those. He doesn't like those. So he saves his monkeys. He saves his people. And then he goes and he meets with a dragon king. So I'm going to go ahead and change to a different picture real quick. Another picture of Sun Wukong. Here we go. So, anyways, Sun Wukong travels across the ocean to one of the other Dragon Kings. Now, north, south, east, and west, they all have a Dragon King for each ocean. So I believe he has now gone to the Eastern Ocean and he's meeting with the Dragon King because he was told that his monkeys suggested that that would probably be the Dragon King that hoards a bunch of weapons and stuff like that. So he would probably be the one most likely to have something to help him. So Sun Wukong eventually goes to the Dragon King and on the somersault cloud, and he asks the Dragon King for help. He's like, Mr. Dragon King, sir, I am just simply trying to protect my people, and I have great need of a weapon that is helpful and will be able to work well with my capabilities. So, long story short, he goes through like maybe 3 or 4 different weapons, and each one getting heavier and heavier and heavier each time. And, he doesn't really appreciate any of these weapons. He's like, this is too light. This weapon is also too light. And he gives him, and then the Dragon King is starting to get a little bit concerned because he's offered up his best weapons. And he's like, but Monkey King, I have offered up all of my best weapons. I have nothing left to offer you. I've already given you everything I have. And the Monkey King says, surely you jest. These are all too weak and too light. Surely you have something. And so the Dragon King starts getting an idea. And at first, he doesn't think that the Monkey King could possibly. There's no way. Unless. So he takes the Monkey King deep down into the sea, and he comes back with a rod, a staff. Like you see this one right here. Hold on. See, like this right here. His staff. So let me switch over here for now. There you go. Like that. See? So the dragon brings back the staff and gives it to the Monkey King. The Monkey King picks it up and swings it around, and he's like, ah, yes, this is much better. This is what I needed. Thank you. And the Dragon King, what he didn't tell Sun Wukong, as shock goes over his face, is that the staff that he brought him was actually the pillar that was holding up the entire ocean. It was like holding up the ocean, and the staff weighs 7,986 pounds. This is insanely heavy. And Sun Wukong is just carrying it around like it's nothing. And so the Dragon King gets a little scared. Then Sun Wukong asks him for some armor. He's like, I will need some armor as well, sir. So the Dragon King is like, but I don't have any armor. All I have is weapons. And so he gets his other. So the Dragon King of the Eastern Sea, he goes and he meets with his other dragon kings from the other seaboards. He invites them over basically, and he tells them to bring some armor. And long story short, blah blah blah. They eventually get there, and he finds the armor that he needs. This armor also weighs thousands of pounds. And all the Dragon Kings are a little anxious around Sun Wukong now, and they just want him gone. So they give him his weapon, they give him his armor, and they send him on his way. He goes back home. But on his way back home, the gods have been paying attention. The gods don't like what's happening here. They don't like what's going on. So the gods send someone to attack Sun Wukong and his monkeys and his people. And the gods, they get into a war. He literally gets into a war with the gods. And they fight for like a week. Like over a week straight. They just fight and fight and fight. And eventually Sun Wukong is able to, long story short, obviously I'm skipping out on a lot of stuff. But eventually Sun Wukong is able to defeat the army and Erlong Shin. Yeah, the dude from the game. He is the basically kind of like the general of the army. And by the time it's all said and done, Sun Wukong has defeated over 12 different immortal gods and soldiers, and like thousands upon thousands of immortal soldiers from Heaven's army. And so eventually he pushes them back and drives them away, and he's left with his own stuff. And then after that, they keep going, and he decides that he's got to do something. So the gods we're going on two different strands here. There's going to be a strand in the heavens with the gods, and then there's going to be a strand in the underworld with some other stuff going on. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the god side, since we're already talking about them, and then we'll go to the underworld side and wrap up part 1, because it's just, there's a lot. So I'm going to have to wrap it up pretty soon. But so basically the gods are up in heaven, and they're talking about all this. What are we going to do with Sun Wukong? Since he's so strong now and he's rebelled against us. So they decide they will give Sun Wukong the title of Great Heaven Equaling Sage, or Sage equal to heaven. And what they do is they are going to give him this title, and they will have him guard the peaches of heaven that they use in their elixirs of immortality. Yeah, the gods just apparently drink peach juice that makes them immortal. Like what? So, yeah, that happens. And on the other side of things, while this is going on in heaven, Sun Wukong decides to, take a rest because of all the stuff that's been going on down in the underworld, where with his battles and everything. So Sun Wukong tries to take a nap. He tries to get some rest. But while he's trying to get some rest, I'm not sure what else to call them, so I'm just going to call them Reapers. These Reapers from the underworld come up, and they take Sun Wukong while he's sleeping, and they bring him down to the underworld because they also don't like the power that he's getting. So they bring him down to the underworld. But what they don't realize is Sun Wukong has this ability where he can shrink and increase the size of objects at will. So what Sun Wukong does is his staff, I think we'll call it the Jingle Bang from here on out. That's what it's called. So he takes it, but I just call it his staff. So, anyways, his staff, he can make it really small. So he makes it like the size of a toothpick or a pin, and he sticks it right here behind his ear all the time, so that it's always with him. And so he takes it out, increases the size, and he starts beating everybody up. And he finds the book of names that like Big Daddy Grim Reaper himself is all about. Like all the names of all the people and the times that they're supposed to, be taken away and all that stuff. So he finds this book and he gets his second layer of immortality by erasing his name from the book of death. And not only his name, but also the names of all of his monkeys and his monkey friends. So, thus making them immortal as well. And then he gets out and he goes back home. And when he gets back home, his monkey people tell him that heaven has the Jade Emperor himself has sent an emissary and would like to discuss something with him in heaven. They are offering him a title in heaven. And that is all the time we have for this one. And I really, really love this story, and I could make like 600 hours worth of these episodes. But I think we could do part 2 next time if you want, or we could do something else, because honestly, I could probably make this into a whole series all by itself. So I haven't decided yet. We may do a part 2 or we may do something else. If you have any preference, just let us know over on the Facebook group or right here on the YouTube page. However you want to reach out to us. We also have the email over at thisuncannieearth@gmail.com. You know how to hit us up. So if you have any preference, just let us know or comment on the video right here on YouTube after it's uploaded. And we will get back to you and we will make a decision and let you all know. So I will see you next time. But before we end, let's go ahead and go through all the photos we got. All right? So now that we know a bit of the story, here's some of the photos. This is an altar dedicated to the Jade Emperor. I found all these on Google, and they were all copyright free for Creative Commons attribution, So here is a fat Buddha. I'm not trying to be offensive. That's really what they call him. They actually call him Fat Buddha. Here is a Buddha that you may see in like a museum or some ancient artistry. Here is a Buddha statue. I don't know why, but I kind of like the ears. The ears look pretty cool. And we could get into Buddha in the future. I would like to do a part 2, but I don't know if I want to just do the whole entire, next 3 episodes all about Journey to the West, because I totally could. But I don't know if anyone else would be interested in that or not, because I'm completely obsessed, as you can probably tell. I didn't even do any notes for this. This whole episode has just been completely from my memory. But spoiler alert for future reference, if we do any more stuff on this, spoiler alert, Buddha is the one who is finally able to outsmart Sun Wukong when it's all said and done. And then here is a little enlightened monk, just a monk sitting in some fog, it looks like. Not really sure, but I enjoyed it. Here, zoom in a little bit for you. See, just a monk in some fog, but I enjoyed it. So, and then this is some artwork of Erlong Shin and his little wolf right here. He does tend to keep a wolf with him. Here is some alternative artwork for something called Mythosphere. This is a monk statue that you might see in like a typical Chinese household. Here are some peaches. We'll be getting to that story next time. Here is a giant statue of Buddha. This is some artwork meant to represent the Jade Emperor. This is like some ancient, like maybe a wall scroll type artwork for the Jade Emperor. Here's a statue of the Jade Emperor that you might see in like a temple. Here is an emoji style of a meditating monk. I don't know what this was, but I really liked the look of it, so this is another meditating monk. But this one, this would make a really good movie poster, I feel like. Then there's a monk in emoji style. Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. Some more peaches. And yes, there is a reason I took so many pictures of peaches. And then here is a stone inscription. I don't know what you would call this, but like a stone artwork of Erlang Shin. Here is Sun Wukong at the opera. Yeah, they actually have an opera about Sun Wukong, apparently. This was a plate design for Sun Wukong. Here's Sun Wukong, and right here, it kind of looks like he's doing his little staff spin like you get in the game. So that's pretty cool. Then this looked like a good artwork for one of the interpretations of the book of Journey to the West. So that's why I picked this, because I thought the art design was very similar to the cover of the book, Journey to the West. And this is actually a movie poster for a movie based on Sun Wukong called The Monkey King 2. And then here is a Buddha statue where Buddha is trying to achieve Zen. And that is all the photos we have. So thank you for coming to hang out. I am sorry we didn't get through more of the story, but as I said, it is a very long story, 100 chapters, and it's just incredibly long. And there's so much to it. We've barely just scratched the surface. Like even with what we've discussed today, we've barely stumbled halfway through the prologue. Like there's so much to this story. But thank you for coming to hang out, and I will see you next time. And now remember, folks, stay uncanny.